Good evening, and welcome to the first episode of the Curious Vlog, where I talk to you about all things Relance. This is your big chance to hear me tell you about the world, and I want to use this vlog as a setting to give you some insights that are hard to convey through text. So join me in that, why don't you? This week I'm going to be talking about all the stuff that I've been up to for the Festival of 32, and I'm going to be talking about the music feature that'll be coming up shortly here. So let me start by saying that my schedule has been full lately. I'm running 8 Curious Tale features right now. 5 of them are weekly, and 4 of those are pretty big. And the monthly ones are all big. So, and I'm also running Festival of 32 stuff that doesn't have to do with the Curious Tale, so I have had a lot to do. I don't like to use the word busy, but I have definitely been using up my available time on this, and it feels good. It feels really good to be so productive. There are times in my life when I'm more productive and times in my life when I'm less productive, and the Curious Tale is my baby. It's my thing, you know, and I feel good anytime that I'm getting ahead on it, and that's what I've been doing these past few weeks especially. Boy, this week, golly, this week was full, and it's not over yet. It's Thursday night that I'm making this video. You're seeing this video on Saturday at the earliest, but anyhow, the week's not over yet. Let me give you the impressions about some of the works that I've been doing so far. I created the Curious Tale Saturdays first, months and months ago. I knew that something like this was coming up, and I wanted to do one feature first to see if I could stick with it and to see how I felt about it, just as a sort of dry run. And I was very pleased with it, and many of you have said you enjoyed it too. So I'm thrilled about that. Recently, Curious Tale Saturdays has mostly been given over to me talking about works. But I guess it isn't really about works, is it? The works are like the cup of coffee in a cafe. They're the occasion to be there and to build more of the world around them. In this case, in Gala, where I have been writing about lately. And that is a good thing. That makes me happy. I write about the Curious Tale so much, but I sometimes get the feeling that I'm doing all of this writing about the Curious Tale, and yet I don't show you what it actually is. So with the work features, I've been doing that. You've been learning a lot about the background of the world. You've been learning more about Galen's society, and that will all come in handy if you want to understand more about Relance when the bigger works come along. They take a lot of time and energy. It's my most time-consuming feature, but the payoff is all of this world building that I'm doing, and that's why it takes so long. So in the near future, the history section of the Galen work feature is going to wrap up. Then I'm probably going to devote a few Curious Tale Saturdays to something, else. But I'll get back to the works eventually, because it's been a great cup of coffee. The next feature is Empire on Ice, and that's a fun one. Not a crowd favorite, but I like doing it. And for those of you who are interested in reading it, it can also be an insight into the characters who are present there. Because, for one thing, some of the characters are portrayed there directly, and you could probably make some deductions based on seeing them in a different light. But also, Empire on Ice is an insight into my own sense of humor, my sense of comfortableness with myself, my more positive, good cheer. And if you understand that better, then you will understand me better, and by understanding these things better, you will understand my work better, the Curious Tale. I wish it weren't true. I think the best writers are transparent, but I'm not one of those, and I'm not trying to be. So the more you understand me, the better you're going to understand my other work. So for those of you interested in reading this feature, it's more than just laughs, or at least I hope it's. I assume there are laughs. If there are not laughs, I apologize. They're fun to write, anyhow. I'll tell you that, and that's probably what they're there for. Next is The Great Galavar. You might have wondered, where did this come from? Big new story out of the blue? It's an interlude. It's Galavar's interlude. The interludes, for those of you who don't know, are interludes to After the Hero, and After the Hero is the major work of the Curious Tale. The interludes are an opportunity to get to know some of the characters better, so that you can have a better appreciation of the events of After the Hero. Maid of Song is the interlude for Afiak Bard, and The Great Galavar is Galavar's interlude. It was actually the first interlude that I ever wrote. I wrote it back during the RPG. I wrote the first half of it. I never finished the second half. Back in 1999, and I've actually drawn a lot of inspiration for this one from that one. For instance, both of them begin with a descent down the steps of Saros, and there are other inspirations that I draw as well, along with a bunch of new stuff. It's a different story, but it tells the same basic. It covers the same basic theme of who was Galavar before he became the person that we all know. What was he like back then, and what made him into who he is? And this is that. Pardon me for a second here. Gonna get some water. The Great Galavar starts out in Ache, the village of Ache, which is in the most desolate part of Relance, more or less. The geography here is incredible. The closest thing to it in the real world that I know is called a karst topography, K-A-R-S-T. But it's not quite like that. It's like if you think of a chessboard with all of the tiles at different heights from one another, so you get this pillar effect. That's what this part of the world is like. It's not the Soda Plains, the sand ocean. That's a little farther north. This area is truly the middle of nowhere, except for the village of Ache. No one lives out there. And that's where Galavar comes from. That's where I come from in a poetic sort of way. I come from the desert, the middle of nowhere, and that is not a coincidence. Galavar and I have a lot of overlap, especially if you remember that when I came up with this, it was all the way back in 1999. I was still in the desert. I was waiting to make my big escape, and I did. Went on to Seattle, and at the moment I'm here at an observatory, which is really cool. So we're going to be spending some time with Galavar in Ache, getting to know him, and then he's going to go to the Empire to study, and that's when the ball is really going to start rolling. So anyway, I look forward to unfolding that adventure for you. As for why I'm doing it, I wanted to do a sort of anti-Mate of Song, and I'm talking meta here. Mate of Song is a big work, full scale, that I'm doing a lot of polish on and releasing all at once. The Great Galavar is more like the old RPG, where I'm doing it in series with a new episode every week. And I'm doing it that way to help me become a better writer, to up my game, because as you all know, I have trouble finishing projects. I have no want for ideas. I have plenty of those, but it's the finishing that is so hard for me. And Maid of Song is going to get there, but I'm concerned that I need to up my game for After the Hero, which is a much bigger work. So I'm going to be doing the Great Galavar to create lessons for myself, to teach myself some tips and other techniques I can use to be a more effective writer for the all at once big stuff. And by the way, the Great Galavar is going to be a big story. It's going to be as big as Maid of Song, much more epic in scope, but in terms of word count, it's going to be big. It's going to be a whole year. Um, so there is a definite advantage to doing both types of story at the same time. And if you're worried that the Great Galavar is cutting into my Maid of Song time, don't worry, because the great thing about this Festival of 32 is that I am increasing my productivity, so it is not time that I was spending on Maid of Song anyway. And for those of you who are worried that all of this, the whole Festival of 32, is eating into my After the Hero time, I guess what you need to understand is that this, for me, is the road to After the Hero. The Draft 10 era began in 2010 when I realized that I finally had the skills as a writer to write page for page After the Hero in a way that I would be happy with. But there is a strategic element that is bigger than page-to-page writing, and I'm not there yet, and Maid of Song has taught me that, and I'm going to continue to learn and to be better. And unless I die prematurely in a car wreck or whatever, I am going to get to After the Hero. And this is the road to do it. So join me. Join me. Next feature is Silence's Word of the Day. I hope I haven't already talked about this. I've done so many takes on this video. I don't think I've talked about it on this take. That's just an opportunity for me to showcase my favorite character and to turn on its head my previous wisdom of reserving her voice to keep it more rare and therefore more compelling. But she's so present and so prevalent throughout the Curious Tale. You're going to be seeing a lot of her, so why not just get on with that? Also, it's fun for me. It's an opportunity for me to wear her hat and to speak some things that I care about. Also, for you, there's a little bit of a game here, or a puzzle, if you will, because Silence is usually at the center of very important plot developments, and when I post these quotations, I'm not going to be telling you, usually, the significance, the context, and things like that. But if you start thinking about it, if you read these quotes and you start wondering about the context and imagining what it might represent, I think you're going to be able to make some deductions, some interesting deductions about what's going on and what you have to look forward to. I would be ever so happy if that's what some of you took away from it. All right. And I was also going to talk about the music, but I am already running long again. I cannot do this video in the 10 minutes that I want to do it. I have tried and tried. I'm just going to talk about the music and cut it short. I love to compose. I have composed for most of my life. But as you will all readily agree, I'm not the best composer. My music suffers from the same trouble as my writing, which is that I have these fantastic, elaborate ideas in my head that are so hard to transcribe onto the medium. But whereas I'm a pretty decent writer, I'm very much an amateur as a composer, and so you haven't seen much of my music over the years because I know it is not that great. And with Curious Tale music, you have seen very little. Even though I've been composing motifs and themes for the Curious Tale almost for as long as there has been a Curious Tale, certainly more than a decade. I do this because, for me, the music of the Curious Tale is as expressive and as important as the writing. It does the same thing that the writing does. It gets the point across. So I don't want to publish music that I'm not feeling sterling about. But beginning next month, you are going to get the chance to hear some music. I have less than 1 minute before I hit my YouTube limit, so I was going to talk more about this, but oh well. The first piece of music is the theme for the Village of Ache. I've gotten comments over the years from people who say that my music reminds them of the RPG sound, and to me that sounds like a polite way of saying that it doesn't sound like real music, but I've decided to own that. And so in order to get this piece done on time and to just get the boat sailing, I have written a very RPG style beginning town, the adventure starts off theme, and for the video. Bye-bye.